Sheriff, you would introduce yourself and your associates, your staff here, and then again we have the question of that every department head answers, or not in this case office head answers, and that's who are can you operate within the mayor's proposed budget?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, to my right is our Chief of Administration, Mr. John Hudson, and to my left is our Director of Finance in the Sheriff's Office, Mr. Pete Lutz. And I'd like to ask the men and women who run the Sheriff's Office to stand up, if you don't mind. I can't introduce you all, but I want you to meet the people who run the place. Thank you for being here. We can live within the budget that is presented by the mayor's office, and before I get into that, I do have to do two things. My mother is here. She hasn't been here since my dad left the council, and she's going to come up here and make sure y'all don't beat up on her son. So would you stand up? Would you stand up, please? This is my mother, Gail Hall. I appreciate you being here. And if you do beat up on me, my son is here too. Dylan, would you wave in the back? He second year. You didn't run him off last time, so he's interning from the summer. I want to spend my few minutes, if it's okay, talking about not only those men and women, but who is the Sheriff's Office, and basically what we've been doing and what we're about. Who are the staff? Who are those people? It's interesting. It's nearly 1,000 people. They are from virtually every state in this country, and some of them are from many other countries that come to work in the Sheriff's Office. They're often forgotten as it relates to public safety. I love analogies, and they're the analogy of the offensive lineman. You're not going to hear their name and know much about them until they mess up, and they usually are measured by failure, and they know that. But you don't know a whole lot about them personally because they're behind the scenes doing, I think, an invaluable service to this city and many other cities. As we sit here now, they're across the street and across the town providing, I think, an incredible service to this community. One good thing that we'd like to say is if you haven't heard from us lately, we've been doing a good job, and I think that's true. You haven't heard a lot from us, and I hope you won't. But there was something this past several months ago that you didn't hear a lot about that I want to point out to you. As you guys know, the Human Relations Commission performed a diversity study of metropolitan government. There was a lot of media coverage and a lot of attention as it relates to the results of that study. And I'd like for you to, when you get a chance, to dust it off and just go back, and I'll summarize for you what it says. The Sheriff's Office is the #1 most diverse agency in the government with anyone who has 200 employees or more. And it is #1 in diversity of African Americans and race, but it is #2 with women, only behind the health department. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how that happens. Some 13 years ago, after being elected, I took the men and women who are in this room. We got away from here. We went and decided how we're going to run the Sheriff's Office. I tell people all the time I wouldn't get on a plane if I didn't know where it was going. And we don't ask anybody to come to work for the Sheriff's Office that doesn't know where we're trying to go. And so what part of what we wanted to do was to create the direction we wanted the city to see the Sheriff's Office, and one of those pillars of our organization is diversity. We didn't start that just a few months ago. We didn't need a committee to tell us what to do. We're going to continue to work very, very hard as it relates to recruiting the best employees this city can have. It is to represent this community. It is also to perform a very important service for people who are incarcerated. We're very proud of what we do, and we're very proud of the fact that in the report, the numbers back up what I'm saying. Those men and women are working in facilities, as you well know, scattered all over this town, and I hope you've seen the reports, if nothing else that we could agree on. There's a lot of work to be done on such facilities. Those employees deserve safe and secure places to work, and I hope we'll find a way to do that. Why is all this important, really? It's because it's the most important thing I do. I have nearly 1,000 people who work for me. You give us money, and the majority of that money, some 80+% of it, is all to do with the staff. As we sit here right now, we have one of, if not the lowest turnover rates in the country for what we do. In a city that is prosperous as Nashville, that is virtually unheard of. Our turnover is somewhere around 9%. The national average is in the 30s. Why is that important tonight? It's because that's where our budget is. I have never been in front of you being over budget, and I hope I never do. We're reporting to you that we're under budget this year, and the single reason I can tell you that is because we hire, train, and retain exceptional employees. We want them working for us. We want them to stay working for us, so the turnover doesn't cost you and I money. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it over to any questions, and we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. The floor is open for council members. Council Lady Langster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad I'm first. Sheriff Hall, you have an outstanding department, and you really personify diversity in your department. Don't think it's not noticed by most of the constituents in my district and throughout this county. But you have one employee, I always try to mention his name. He does an excellent job for this city. And in fact, he used to be the best hidden secret, but the secret has gotten out. And I'm talking about Mike Raines.
I'm surprised who you're talking about.
But please, if he does a wonderful job with not a lot of fanfare, and I'm doing this and I'm great at this. He's really a very shy person, I think, but he gets the job done. I mean, he goes to great extents to see that it's done right, as if it was for his neighborhood or if it was for the mayor's neighborhood. He treats all individuals out here just like they need to be treated, and I appreciate that. So if he needs any equipment, please don't hesitate to tell me. We will get it on the budget and get it to him soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilman Pardue.
We're having our own conversation, Sheriff. I was paying attention to you, though.
Okay.
I just have one question. How many people do you have employed, or maybe somebody else could answer it, that are under public safety?
About half. If you won't hold me, it's in the 400 range, I suspect, out of the 870.
Okay. Now, have you heard talk that maybe the Civil Service Commission wants to reclassify that as police and fire pay plan?
I have heard that. Haven't in the last few weeks. Haven't heard an update, but I heard that talk a few weeks back.
Do you know how that would affect your people? Would they have to give that classification up, or?
I will fight that they shouldn't have to give any of that up. I believe they're classified as public safety employees in the federal government. They should stay here as classified as public safety employees. I will look into that because I don't know what direction it's going, but we fought for a long time to get them included.
Yeah, so we don't know what direction it's going either. We're usually the last ones to find out. But if you need somebody to help you fight, holler at me.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, just quickly, looking at the your operating budget on expenditures per capita, last year it was budgeted at $98 per person. It's now $95.60. Have you had a 2 or 3% drop in your population with your inmates?
Yeah, the population overall has been declining for the last, I'd say, 6 or 7 years. And the trend of that, I think, is what you're catching up with. Sometimes it happens in increments, but for the last several years, overall cost is driven by the number of inmates we house. Okay, and so would that kind of explain why there's a natural drop in the program revenue? And I'm on page E35 with regards to federal direct and pass-through and state direct, as far as the amount of money that you may be collecting is because you don't have as many people incarcerated? Yes, we addressed this. I'm glad you asked that. We addressed this several months back with the mayor's office. Wanted to make sure that they understood that was what was going on. Keep in mind, because we're so low in some of our populations, the overall, I did the math recently, the overall cost if we were at capacity is about $48 million more dollars I would need from the government just to operate the facility. So because we've decreased so much, so too has the revenue, but our cost as well.
Okay, and and this is a hypothetical question, but if in the event you had a 10% rise in population, how long does it take you to make up in order to get the pass-through, state, federal, local even?
Yeah, the trend isn't as hard as if we had a sudden shift in the laws, and that's happened over the years. In July, let's say if certain laws kicked in and where DUI, for example, was in our system longer. Where we benefit is if it's a state law or a federal law, those inmates oftentimes we can move them into their systems quicker. But if it's a local, let's call it DUI law, where we house and we pay for all that cost, it can really impact us. I think we're prepared in our system to handle that over the next several years, unless there's a spike of something we're not predicting right now.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Council, any more?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Hall, I know what a great job you all do. I mean, I hadn't did a tour in a while, but when I did the tour, I was very pleased with what I saw. And plus, I'm always interested in what services that you all may offer the, inmates once they're released. And I was looking at on page 151, your handout here, and you were saying that you had challenges of hiring high-quality people. Now, how do you all go about, I know you said you retained some people, how do you go about recruiting high-quality people?
Yeah, I always tell people this isn't a natural place to want to end up working sometimes as individuals. They may want to go on to the federal government, law enforcement, or local law enforcement, and we're often that place you start. And so whether you want to go to the Metro Police Department or whether you go to the military or maybe the fire department, our job is to get people in and show them not only how we're going to treat them as an employer, but what the real job is. We need aggressive people, not physically aggressive, but aggressive people who are interested in coming in and learning what we do. Our belief is we're trying to arrest the problem, not the person. We don't do that for you. That's not our job. Our job is to arrest the problem. And that problem is built into what you and I know is whether it's addictions or mental health or all the stuff that we're struggling with to try to put that person back in the streets, less likely to come back. That person doesn't need to be physically gifted. Mm-hmm. And so what we're trying to do is educate people on what we're really looking for. Unfortunately, the media, movies, and TV portray it as something totally different. That's not who we are. We believe that the fewer beds we fill up every year, the better we're doing.
Okay. And then I was looking on page E30-2 where under your strategic issues, you talk about how healthcare is a challenge, and especially when it results in additional behavioral service needs. Now, do you have a host or a list of partner agencies that you deal with that help with this, that help offset this, or do you have people just come in and volunteer, or?
One of the complications for this subject is that by state law, the health care for the inmate population is the requirement of the health department. I don't love that. I had an attorney general's opinion asked for right after I was elected. I don't love it just because it's complicated. It doesn't mean they don't do a really good job. But what happens is those services are directly provided through the health department in our facilities, so we coexist, if you will. And that's the requirement, obviously, to provide. But our belief system in the sheriff's office is that we believe we're trying to find alternatives that will keep people out of the system. 1 year ago right now, I think it's mentioned somewhere in here, we started a program called SOAR, and what that does is allow us to get people who are seriously mentally ill and homeless back on Social Security, to be honest, while they're with us. And why that's important is this person who's mentally ill is in the jail, and if not for that service, would be released into the streets, and you and I shouldn't be surprised that they're going to come right back. But we're the only place in the country that's doing that in jail. And so what we do is we're trying to connect people into the services that they're already allowed and offered and get them connected where they can pay for the needs that they have when they get out. Mm-hmm. Because putting them out on the streets without those services, you and I shouldn't be surprised they're going to come back. And so our focus is, whether it's physical health or mental health, is to provide the services required, but also reach outside the box and try to find something that may help them long term.
Okay. And my last question, I was looking at, the strategic issues about structured correctional services. So that falls in line. You pretty much answered that question. Do you have a plan or aftercare plan for the inmates once they're released?
Yes, we're one of the 6 places in the country that participate in a thing called Transition from Jail to Communities, TJC. And what that does is bring the community providers into our system while the person is incarcerated. Our research shows us that if a person who's incarcerated has mentorship or if you will, relationship with people in the free world while they're incarcerated in the upwards of 5 visits 5 times, I'm much more likely to reach out to you once I get released for rides, for places to go to work, and hopefully for things to do that are more productive. We believe that reduces, the evidence right now is that reduces the likelihood you come back to jail in half. It's early, we're working on that. It cuts the likelihood a person with no services provided is about an 80% likelihood of coming back to jail. We believe we can cut that in half, and as you heard earlier, we have a significant number of empty beds in our system because of the efforts that we've been putting forth for the last 10 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Tiger.
Thank you, and Sheriff, welcome. And I wanted to dovetail on Council Lady Langster's to make absolutely certain that the most cost-effective program that this government operates is your Community Services Division, and that we have no needs, we have staffing, we can go and handle all the community cleanup days and drop-off days and all the things necessary to make these folks successful out in their districts.
Yeah, one thing my dad taught me a long time ago was that the council members have needs that sometimes can't be met through the traditional processes, just the way it is. And so what we've tried to do is provide an alternative for that. I hope all of you as council members reach out when you have those services, and not only Mike, he would want me to tell you this, but the men and women who work for him do an incredible job that may not be known. Some of them are here. But I think we've proven in this community, I hope, that you can take people who are incarcerated at a time and provide an invaluable service to every district out here, and that's what we're trying to do. We want to keep doing that.
With that, I want to bring up a possible addition to your services. One of the more popular drop-off services that our citizens are demanding more and more is paper shredding of important documents. And it's getting more and more difficult for the private sector to meet the needs of these district drop-off points. If this body were to buy you a paper shredding truck to incorporate with the Saturday drop-offs, could even be used to meet the needs of government on a day-to-day basis, and I haven't talked to the finance director and deputy mayor as to what the government's paper shredding needs are, but that would seem to me to be a very nice fit with what you already do. And is that something that you would consider operating for the district cleanup days?
Love to do that. We do a very small portion now, but we don't have the equipment. We're often asking where to take it and how to use it, but we'd love to be a part of that. We have, as you guys know, staff that would supervise it and handle it any way you'd like.
Okay. And Mr. Chair, if you'd just indulge, I know this is not a budgetary question, but because his mama's here today and he mentioned his daddy, I'm going to tell you that Durwood Hall was one of the more popular council members in this body for 8 years, and it was simply because he was known for one very popular statement: previous question.
And it's popular to this day, I might add. Council Lady Weiner.
Thank you, Chair. Sheriff, again, I can't thank you guys enough for everything you do for us. And everybody in Bellevue applauds every time y'all are out there. So, and I did out Charlie's request for the shredding equipment. I think that would help everybody on really a day-to-day basis. But that is not why I pushed my button. I've asked several other departments this question, and I just want to explore this one quick issue with you. Do you guys collect fines, fees in-house? Or is that something that you farm out?
We do. I can get you all. It's a whole series of different types of fees, but I can sure get you that.
But you do collect them in-house? Yes. Okay. How's your accounts receivable? Do you have an issue with the turnover rate? But, I mean, are you collecting it or is it a problem?
We don't see that. As far as I know, Pete oversees that division for us, but I don't see that from where I'm sitting.
Well, there are probably other departments that need to copy what you're doing. Thank you.
Fellow members, I want to, as we slide into the police time, allotted time, and more, there's quite a few in the queue. I just ask to be respectful for the other departments. Thank you very much. Councilman Domney.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Sheriff, and Mr. Hudson Lutz for being here. Got several questions. First, I do want to commend you for the diversity. There's a large number of those diverse members of your staff live in the 28th district, and your low turnover is also commendable. It shows that you're running an efficient operation, keeping employees happy. And last but not least, the public service you do, everybody in this county needs to know of, and I commend you for that. But I do have several questions. Last year, during this presentation, a couple of minutes into the presentation, you indicated that all of your operations were fully accredited. Right. Here in Davidson County. Has that changed?
No.
It hasn't?
No.
Okay. Because I'm curious how we can suddenly be in need of replacing something if it's fully accredited.
I assume you're talking about the capital budget issue?
I'm talking about capital budget as well as operating budget, because there's, if I'm not mistaken, there's an RFP been issued for the building of a Criminal Justice Center this year. It was issued May 1st, had a public meeting on the 2nd. 4 bids have been received, and if it's accepted on July 1, to begin immediately development, which would impact this year's budget as well.
Okay. Yeah, we are fully accredited, extremely proud of that. I would argue that's probably more of an accomplishment given the situation. Be happy to tour you or anybody else through those facilities and show you the reason why it needs to be moved. It has nothing to do with how we operate the facilities. Accreditation is usually about operations and practices and policies. It has nothing to do with plumbing that's at 25 years old and near death. So accreditation has nothing to do with such fire alarm systems that are inoperable. It's how we operate them.
Okay. Also, I had a question about the vacant beds you currently have in your facilities. You indicated earlier that the number of detainees has gone down, which is a good thing for lots of reasons, but what are the number of vacant beds across your facilities right now?
I could look at that. I bet it's somewhere in the 1,000 range, 1,100, somewhere like that. Let me be real careful to explain what's happening, because you're talking about the capital issue. Moving our operation to the southeast part of Nashville does not expand our beds. We don't need more beds. We need the beds we have redone, rebuilt. It's a lot like a car. If your car is more expensive to repair than to buy a new one, you have to make that decision individually. We're not asking for an extra car in the driveway. The car we have needs to be repaired or replaced.
I understand now. I heard that when we had the meeting there at the South Precinct also. I appreciate that. Okay. But I did want to confirm the RFP has been issued and you had 4 bids on construction. Would that development begin immediately once it would be approved in July 1?
I'm not sure. That's not my role here. There's a procurement office and a purchasing division and a finance office. We're working with them and doing it the way you're supposed to do. I'm not sure when it would start, to be honest with you.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. Thanks.
Councilman Claiborne?
Okay, if I can indulge me one moment, Chair. I did want to ask, and I dealt with this when we had the meeting, or when it was originally announced moving the CJC. We spent $1.5 million on a study about moving the CJC. Is this document what we received for that?
Is that what you received for that? I guess it's what you received. The city has the information, obviously, that says that that the best solution for our situation is to relocate us. If you're talking about the paper, the report, the information, that's what they were paid to do. You voted on it. You voted to do that.
Yes, I did, and we expected to receive this. I'm asking that the money was appropriated, $1.5 million in last capital improvement budget for a criminal justice campus master plan. Mm-hmm. Is this what we received for that $1.5 million?
I think the city has more information that obviously you don't want released, and that's nothing to do with conspiracy here. It has to do with what exactly our walls and doors and locks and so forth would be. I don't want you to have that. The legal department says you don't, I don't mean you, but the public to have access to that. We can't operate our facilities if the combination to the locks are known by everybody. So I'm sure there's more information than is in the report that you're looking at, but that summarizes, the way I see it, the question about where we should move. If we're talking about the specifics of how it would be done, the award of the contract will clear all that up.
Well, we're asked to vote on a budget, and we voted on it last time, and I'm trying to clarify, if this is what we received, why would we have another $1.5 million in this year's capital improvement budget? Mr. Riebling might need to answer that one.
Are you asking about for another study, or?
No, I'm asking why we have another $1.5 million included in this year's capital improvement budget.
What is it earmarked for?
According to the letter received from Mr. Riebling's office this month, there's another $1.5 million for a criminal justice campus master plan. And if this is what we received for that funding last year,
probably a carryover from last time. I don't know what you're referring to.
well, it was a letter received from your office under general services, $1.5 million for a criminal justice campus master plan.
You're referring to something in the CIB document in the book?
I'm referring to a letter received from your office with a list of priorities in the capital improvement budget. It was in last year's budget.
Capital spending plan?
What's that?
I just don't, I'm not sure what you're referring to. You're referring to the capital spending plan? Did we present it?
Well, it was a letter.
In the capital spending plan, there's a proposal for about $150 or $60 million for public safety initiative improvements, including, I believe, $110 million to relocate the sheriff's operations to off of Harding Place.
Okay, so I'll go back to my original question. Is this what we received for the $1.5 million in the last year's budget?
The sheriff answered your question. He referred to some things that would be of a confidential nature that would not be disclosed, but there was detailed information.
Well, the taxpayers paid $1.5 million for a study. I would think we as council members ought to be able to review that.
You've got the...
Council, may I interject, Mr. Director? If you're wanting to view the entire document, I will ask that you I'll grant you or request that you get permission, or any other council member that'd like to see that document. I'm sure Sheriff Hall would be happy to oblige you there. So if you're interested in whether that we got our money's worth, I think that would, if you see the original document, that will answer your question.
Chairman, I requested that a month ago in a meeting where you cut me off in my questioning. And I don't have it yet.
All due respect, Councilman, I just informed you that we will make sure that you get to see that document.
Okay, since we're talking about documents that were requested, I also requested a traffic study and the impact of the traffic in this proposal, and that was asked for a month ago also. I'd like to receive that also. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Claiborne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will be very brief. This will be my last time to have the opportunity to thank you publicly as a councilman for District 15. And so I just want to say on behalf of the folks that I represent, that you run an exemplary department. You and all the folks who work for you do a great job for our city, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Claiborne. Councilman Bedney.
Yeah, well, I also am very thankful. When I got elected and I learned of this possibility for us to use inmates to do improvements, I was uncomfortable about it, but you explained to me that they really look forward to get out of jail and help, so that was helpful how you explained that to me, and I'm very thankful, and my community is thankful for that service. I do have a disagreement with you about the jail, but that's not what I want to talk about. I wanted to ask you, in going through this process, I learned, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when people are released, a percentage of them, they don't have a one-stop shop to go get services to reintegrate into society. And so I was wondering if your department will be interested in supporting or working with some kind of a nonprofit to help I think you said was 20–25% of inmates that don't get picked up by their family, to have a path. I mean, I guess I'm following up on what Ms. Moore said and other people, to reintegrate into society in a successful way.
Yeah, staff will tell you this, but I don't say no. You come up with an idea that's going to help someone stay out of the system, I have never said no. We will find a way to do it if it's within, the world, even things that aren't traditional. We've taken, I'm thinking about Councilman Claiborne's district, maybe I can tell him this now the statute of limitations is gone. We've taken inmates to performing arts plays in Donaldson. They help build the sets. They ought to get to be a participant. I met this week with someone who's working out in the West Nashville area in the world of performing arts. As we sit here right now, one of the best songwriters in the world is in our jail. A Swedish TV channel is over here working with our programs because we don't believe I or you or anyone has the one simple fix to what helps people stay out of the system, and we're going to continue to find ways to do that. In any way, I mentioned to you, I think over the weekend on the phone, that we did our own research to figure out how many people that are getting out of the system don't have a ride home. That number is somewhere in the 20% range, and we may be the only place in the country that is going to provide bus passes to that population. As a result of the conversation of the last several weeks and how we deal with people who are in our system, we're very proud of that. When people get out of the system and how it affects the neighborhoods and the communities obviously has been a part of the conversation. Much information has been distorted and inaccurate, but my job and our job is to try to get the information out. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to agree. At the end, you and I don't agree. But maybe we agree on trying to help people stay out of jail. We just talked about using inmates. You guys are all using inmates to bring them into your districts to help you clean up districts. We want to help you do that. And that's what we want to do.
So I apologize for interrupting. Would you get back with me with some kind of a project to create this one-stop shop place so people get picked up when they get released from the jail, and that we can partner with some nonprofit and we can work with the mayor's office to see, or the future mayor's office, to see how we fund such a project. But I think it will be to everybody's benefit to deal with recidivism and make sure people are successfully reintegrating. So if you could get back with me, I appreciate it.
Love to do that.
Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think if you do a renovation of your existing building, you're talking about spending almost the same amount of money as actually putting a new facility or building a new facility. Am I right in what I've heard and what I've read about that?
Yes, the experts say it's $103 million to renovate. It's $110 to move. Our savings in moving is about $3 to $5 million a year. 2 years later, you save money.
Okay. I think the one thing that we all need to kind of, and Mr. Chair, I'll say this to you, but I think the one thing that every one of us need to remember in this room is we have an extremely valuable piece of property sitting across the street here that whatever the next administration wants to do with it will hopefully be able to generate property taxes, et cetera, and we're going to be able to, because if we utilize land that we already have, if we spend the amount of money on the existing piece of property, then there is no additional property taxes. I think that you're going about this in the right way. And I think the taxpayers need to understand that we have a future revenue stream that will be created because you're doing the right thing and we're moving in the right direction. And so I think taxpayers, we need to remember that this valuable piece of property, as long as the next administration and this council handles it properly along with your assistance, then we are creating a revenue stream that will be ongoing for many, many years to come. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You are speaking of the fiscal year 17, correct?
Well, whenever this sale takes place. Right.
Again, I want to apologize, Chief. We're getting there. We're just tend to get in the queue here. Councilman Hager.
Thank you. Sheriff Hall, I wanted to ask you one thing. The SCRAM units, GPS devices, are y'all overseeing those at this point in time? And the reason I'm asking about that, is there any move afoot to go to this type of electronic monitoring so you reduce your census in the jails?
We don't oversee that now. It's done by the criminal courts presently, and historically in the last 20, 25 years, it's been in the sheriff's office, moved in and out, I guess, 2 or 3 times. We do several things. We have a thing called a day reporting center. I think some neighborhood of 150, 200 people may be on that today. They're not incarcerated. They're living at home. They come and we provide service to them inside the institutions without any device needed on that population. It is moving, the technology is moving in directions where we're all going to have to consider other alternatives down the road. Like I said, we don't say no. The present system is overseen by the judges, and they put people and direct people on that we just aren't directly involved.
That's just something I was going to look at eventually down the road to reduce your census of population.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Yeah.
Council Lady Dowell.
Thank you. I just want to piggyback on the comments, too, about how much I appreciate Mike Raines, because we definitely utilize him out in my district a lot. So I really appreciate the service that you provide. And you know that I'm probably one of your biggest fans because he comes out and helps me clean up. But I do not.
Mike, I know, aren't you?
Well, but I do want to, you know, I don't support this criminal justice center, and I think we've had a long conversation about it, and it has little for me to do with not in your backyard. It has a lot to do with the growth that we're experiencing out in southeast Nashville. And it also has to do with value of real estate. I heard Councilman Glover mention about the potential increase in revenue for the use of the property across the street. There's a huge potential decline in the value of real estate, and I'm speaking from someone with a real estate license, of real estate around the area for relocating this center and loss of businesses, and that is real. Like, we've been contacted. The question I have about the study, that I really wish we had more time to just really evaluate this study and look at it, because I am in 100% agreement with you that we do need to address the jail situation. We need to figure out something, and I think we talked about this a couple of years ago, but we also have state facilities and other alternatives, and I'm really a little you know, kind of disappointed with the study, because I felt like I don't know how they determine which places to look and so forth, and not have conversations about it. What is the, you know, what is the holdback of pushing this off for a few more months and having some conversations out in the community and taking a look at this?
Council Lady Dowell, please, we're restricting it to the fiscal year 16.
Well, this is budgeted in here in 16, and this is our opportunity to ask questions.
I would request that you restrict your questions to the fiscal year.
Well, I'm asking a question about this fiscal year that we're budgeting for planning for constructing a space. What is the problem with pulling this out and let's take a look at it, and for the next one we can address it, I think, all the way around with everything, because we've not had the conversation. Typically when we get a study, we have time to look at it and evaluate it before we vote to put it inside of one of our budgets. So I'm just wondering, is there some type of urgency that it has to be now, or is there any type of you know, problem with delaying it? And that's the question I have.
I think you're doing a disservice to this city. We built a lot of things in Nashville while you've been the council member of that area. Some really nice things, fun things, good things to do. We built precincts in a lot of places, DNA labs, headquarters. We built this building. We remodeled this. New mayor's office, new council chambers, new courthouses, new fire headquarters. We've done a whole lot of things. You've done a lot of really good things. Some things aren't fun to do. Some things aren't popular to do, but they're the right thing to do. We've waited our turn. The staff that are over there right now deserve to have a place to work, and the men and women who are incarcerated deserve a place to live that is safe and secure. Moving this down the road doesn't help one thing, but the election. What this is really about is about doing the right thing. 1 year ago right now, I sat here and you guys funded the study. You paid experts, not me and not you, on where this place should be. They have now recommended it. They explain why. The city owns the land. The city would move to a place that has been the home of a correctional facility since 1851. I grew up a block from there. My parents bought the home. There was a correctional facility there. They sold their home 60 years later when that correctional facility was there. There will be a correctional facility there long after we decide what to do with this one. So for anyone to say the value of your home is going to be diminished, and by the way, the Department of Justice study and research says nothing reduces the value of your home by expansion of any existing correctional facility. Your value doesn't increase or decrease, and crime doesn't increase. That are the facts. That's not Darren or Councilman Dowell. That's the facts. So you're asking, do you want to put it off? No, I don't want to put it off. I've been here 13 years. I've never asked for one thing. The staff and the inmates and the citizens of Nashville deserve to do this now.
I just want to tell them, you know, I appreciate your response, but I think last year also, if you remember, Sheriff, that when we explore, and this has nothing to do with the election, because we all, for me, it doesn't. It has a lot to do with me. It's just kind of understanding this study and looking at the operations and everything. I think most of us was on the understanding last year with regard to funding that I was under the understanding I'll have an opportunity to just look at it, talk about it, see what operations we have. I feel like this is just kind of, you know, I still don't understand all of it, all the numbers, you know, everything. I just think that I wanted some more information, you know, and I expected we would do like we did with the ballpark, what we did with the Ford Ice Center, the same thing we did with other large projects, is to have that conversation. I think nobody is against per se having a jail or having a place. It's just we don't have the information we need, and it has nothing, in my opinion, to do with the election, because I have a full-time job. It has everything to do with being able to have that information, because I live in the community too, and I just feel like I don't have all the information I need for this. I feel like we got the study and this in there at that time. I just need some more information. But thank you.
Okay. Council Lady Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sheriff Hall, and all of the dedicated staff. I want to echo what my colleague said in terms of Mike Raines, because he knows he is an outstanding guy who always goes above and beyond to help all of us as council members. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate all of the dedicated workers in the Sheriff's Department as well. My question is not that I'm questioning your leadership. The issue that I have is simply the same thing that Council Lady Dowell has tried to express, and that is, have we looked at the increase in the cost for the transportation and the other support services that this type of move would incur, because it would be a permanent move. It wouldn't be something that we could 5-10 years down the line be able to reevaluate and say, these are some other things that we can do. Once we make that move to this part of the city, that is a permanent type situation. So have we evaluated all of those costs associated with transportation and other support services?
Yeah, just to keep in mind, there's 2/3 of our operation out there right now. So what the study did and what these individuals did is to look and see, how would you do this job if you moved everything out there? How would you do this job if you moved us to Myatt Drive or Donaldson Pike or any of these other sites that were mentioned? The reality of it is, we're already having to move. Every female in Nashville that's arrested is on that site right now, and they represent 20% of the population or whatever it is that's being arrested. So they're gonna have to come to court tomorrow regardless, all females, and there's 1,300 or so males out there already. Those are all that have to be in court tomorrow. We already have to come from there. We then have to go down to the Hill building, which is down the street. Then we have to go to CJC. There's 3 sites to go pick up people to get them to one building called the Birch Building. If this move happens, the experts say, and I completely agree with them, you would be making one move. It's safer, it's more secure, it's less expensive. Simple as that. We're getting on one bus, we're coming from one spot, it's secure, we get out in a secure place called the courthouse. We don't move around Nashville with vans and buses to get people to court. It's to and from one place, one way. It's cheaper, it's safer.
What about the close proximity of the facilities to the Birch Building right now? I mean, there's a reduced cost with keeping it centralized in the core of the city as well. I mean, was that thoroughly evaluated? The other thing that I have a problem with the study is when we asked for, well, when you asked for the study, when we gave a little bit of pushback last budget, we specified that we wanted to be involved in that discussion once that study took place. There was no communication that was done with the council members who requested and approved that study. We spent all of this money and we supported what you had requested for us to do, which was to fund that study. And the latter part was not done, which was to include the council members in terms of input, because we could have explored some additional options. We could have asked a lot of these questions. These are things that people have a lot of questions about that we don't have answers to.
Yeah, my memory is I watched this today, just so you know. I watched you and I 1 year ago sit here and have this conversation 1 year ago. I had already made mention in the hallways upstairs, the media picked it up coming from the mayor's office, that I believe the best place for Nashville to move is on Harding Place. As a matter of fact, I said the word Antioch because that's what people say, unfortunately. I have learned from that. We don't say that word anymore because it's not in Antioch. It's on Harding Place. And that was a wrong thing to do for me, and I think I told you that, or maybe Councilman Member Dowell, I didn't want to do that. But you made it clear in here that you were concerned about my decision to move to Harding a year ago. The reality was, I don't get to make that decision. You guys, and I was asking for someone, we have to do something. That's all I want everybody to agree on. 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and right now. We have to do something. And if not my decision, but I believe that's where we should go because I know the operations. And I understand it's been there since 1800 and it's probably going to be a correctional facility whether we agree on it or not, whoever's here. So if that's all the facts, I think that's where we should go. It's easier to operate, it's cheaper, it's safer. But you pointed it out, and I think you're right. It's not my decision. You want to be involved with it. The city wants to be involved with it. So what happened? $1.5 million was paid to organizations to go study, and they have turned over every rock in our operation, been in every facility many, many, many times. They've studied sites. They've studied this location. But to be honest with you, those experts looked at me and said, what is the question? Months into the study. You already own the land as a city. You already zoned, you're already operating correctional facilities. You haven't been a bad neighbor. What is the question? You guys wanted evidence. You wanted experts to back up whatever the decision was going to be. But the decision was never that the council members throughout the year were going to decide where it goes. They were going to recommend to you what they think because they're experts. I'm not, they are. The recommendation, because the CEO of the city is the mayor, goes to the mayor. The mayor reads the recommendation and, to his credit, supports the recommendation. He recommends it, I recommend it, the experts recommend it, and that's where we are sitting here tonight. No decision has been made. You get to make that decision. The council member involvement started the day the announcement was made. We offered a meeting in here. The Chief Anderson and myself were here to answer questions the day it was released. I offered a community meeting, as you well know. I'll do whatever I can do to get you the information, but I'm not the expert. The experts have done their work. They've recommended it. If you don't agree with it, then obviously you get to vote no and everyone else can.
That's not the question I asked, but nevertheless, when we asked for that, or when we supported that study, we asked could we be involved in providing some type of input. We didn't say that we want to determine or make the decision what happens with the study. The study also shows that all of the communication was with you. You know, it wasn't with any other council member. Why couldn't we have any input into it? And that doesn't necessarily mean that the outcome was going to be different. Who knows that?
I think that this is a recommendation, aren't we? There was a meeting last night. There was meetings a week before. You guys, we've had meetings. I'm not saying that's when the results came back from the study, the 14th of April. It was released, and since that time, the decisions are going to be made by the council. It's not my decision.
Okay, well, again, I disagree with the process. We have spent money on a study that nobody else in the city has had an opportunity to have any input in. When we as a city decided that we wanted to put all the waste for Nashville in Bordeaux because there was already a waste facility. No, this is a comparative analysis to what, yes, it is.
No, ma'am, disrespectful analysis. And I would certainly appreciate it if you restrict your statement to something new concerning the budget, because you've already voiced your opinion about the study and the lack of communication. So I would certainly appreciate it if you want to ask something new. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not going to be cut off because this is the only opportunity that we have to ask questions. And when I say, yes, it is.
This is a budget hearing. It is not a community hearing. So I would appreciate it.
And again, as your council colleague, I would like the respect to be able to ask my questions and be able to share my thoughts just like you do on many different occasions from that chair.
Not at budget meetings. No, ma'am.
Yes, you do.
Ma'am. Do you have a new question? If not, I'm going to cut you off.
You're not going to...
We have due respect for other department heads, please, ma'am. Respect for Chief Anderson. Okay. but all I ask, all is needed and demanded by the rules of procedure is that it be about the budget.
With all due respect, sir, we are trying to improve communication here, and that requires having a two-way conversation. So I understand.
And I respect that, but please restrict it to the budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for keeping my mic on, Chair. Rich Riebling, because this is a departmental administration question. When we, as a city, looked at a similar situation in consolidating services, which was the waste to the dump and landfill, and we decided not to do that as a city because the neighborhood said we don't want all of it put in our area. We stepped back and reevaluated that. What I'm saying with this being as impactful as it is and us not being able to provide any kind of input into additional sites to be studied, was that even looked at?
Is your question? Yes, the size study looked at additional sites and determined this was the best location for this facility.
Okay, but I'm talking about for council members being able to provide input.
Councilor Johnson, you have the ultimate decision on this decision, on where to go with this. Don't shake your head no, because that's the rules of the council. The council makes a determination of this. If you want to vote in favor of this plan that the mayor's recommended, we support, vote yes on the capital spending plan. If you're not in favor of this, then you vote no on the capital spending plan.
Okay, so the RFP that's already gone out to build this project that was issued on May 1st, which they're going to award on July the 1st, if all the council members that the sheriff has called individually to get their votes on that, then will they move forward with the construction as of July 1st?
Council authorizes the spending for that project. This project will move forward. The council votes it down and it won't move forward.
Even though we still have additional questions about the impact of this amount on this particular budget item.
You may have questions. Well, I can't answer that question.
Sheriff Hall, again, we thank you for your service. I respect your leadership, but I don't think this process was very inclusive and transparent to the citizens in this city. It is one of the largest capital projects that we're going to do, and I think it's only fair when you have a project of this scope that is inclusive of the council members, most especially those whose areas are most affected, and to the citizens of this city.
Thank you, Councilor A. Johnson. Seeing no other members in the queue, Sheriff, we certainly appreciate you being here and your staff and appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.